Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to The Bold and the Beautiful. Latest episode, the emotional storm that unfolded on The Bold and the Beautiful. This Thursday delivered one of the most intense and psychologically layered episodes in recent memory. What began as a quiet night near the ocean quickly transformed into a deeply personal confrontation with past trauma, fragile trust, and hidden jealousy that now threatens to tear multiple relationships apart. The evening opened at the beach house, where the sound of waves crashing against the shoreline created a calm atmosphere that sharply contrasted with the emotional weight carried by Will. Sitting across from Dylan, he appeared exhausted, not physically, but emotionally drained from years of suppressed memories and unresolved guilt. His voice was shaky, his eyes red from fighting tears. He could no longer hold back. For the first time, Will allowed himself to be completely vulnerable. He began talking about his boarding school years, describing them not as an opportunity for growth, but as a period of loneliness and silent suffering. While others saw privilege, he remembered isolation. He explained how being sent away during his parents' constant conflicts made him feel like an afterthought. Every phone call home felt scripted. Every holiday visit felt tense. He learned early how to hide emotions, how to pretend everything was fine, even when it wasn't. As he spoke, Dylan listened quietly, offering no interruptions, only presence. That presence alone seemed to give Will permission to keep going. He moved into more recent memories, specifically the chaos involving Luna. The guilt in his voice became heavier. He admitted that he still replays moments in his head, wondering if different choices could have prevented pain for so many people, especially Electra. Will admitted he fears losing Electra, not because of betrayal, but because of emotional damage he still carries. He said he worries that one day she will realize he is more broken than she expected. That confession marked the moment his voice cracked completely. Tears fell freely, and for the first time in a long time, he did not try to hide them. Dylan moved closer, speaking softly, reminding him that surviving emotional trauma does not make someone weak. She shared her own regrets, specifically moments when she felt she failed people she cared about. She explained that guilt can trick people into believing they do not deserve happiness. Her words were not dramatic. They were calm, honest, and real. That honesty created a safe emotional space that allowed Will to breathe again. What neither of them realized was that they were not alone. Outside, hidden in the shadows, Ivy watched everything. At first, her expression was confusion, then concern, then anger. The longer she watched, the more convinced she became that something inappropriate was happening. From her perspective, the closeness between Will and Dylan crossed emotional boundaries. She saw comfort, but she interpreted intimacy. She saw support, but she interpreted betrayal. Ivy's emotional reaction was fueled by her loyalty to Electra. In her mind, Electra deserved protection. She believed she was witnessing the early stages of emotional cheating. By the time she stepped away from the window, her decision was already made. She would confront Dylan directly. Later that night, the confrontation happened inside the guest bedroom. Ivy entered with controlled anger, closing the door behind her. The tension in the room was immediate. Dylan sensed the hostility before Ivy even spoke. Ivy accused her of getting too close to Will. She questioned her motives. She suggested that emotional vulnerability creates dangerous attachments. Dylan tried to explain that Will needed support, not judgment. But Ivy was not interested in nuance. In her mind, lines had been crossed. The conversation escalated quickly. Ivy warned Dylan to stay away from Will emotionally. She made it clear she would not allow anyone to damage Electra's relationship. Dylan pushed back, saying support is not the same as betrayal. She insisted that helping someone process trauma is not romantic. It is human. But Ivy was not convinced. She left the room believing she had delivered a warning. Dylan stayed behind, visibly shaken, not because of fear, but because she realized how easily good intentions can be misunderstood. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, Electra was dealing with her own emotional uncertainties. During a conversation with Steffi, she admitted she senses emotional distance from Will lately. Not rejection, not dishonesty, just distance. She described it as feeling like he is fighting battles inside his own mind. Steffi advised patience, but also honesty. She told Electra that strong relationships survive difficult emotional seasons if both people communicate clearly. She also reassured Electra about Will's stability at the company, reminding her that professional pressure can sometimes amplify emotional stress. Electra admitted she trusts Will, but she also admitted she fears losing emotional connection with him if he continues to isolate himself internally. That quiet fear added another layer of emotional tension to the overall storyline. Back at the beach house, Will eventually sat alone after Dylan left for the night. The silence around him was heavy, but different from before. It was not lonely. Silence. It was reflective silence. For the first time, he seemed to accept that healing might require facing emotions instead of burying them. But the bigger question now remains unresolved. Will does not know Ivy witnessed his breakdown. He does not know confrontation has already happened. He does not know emotional misunderstandings are already spreading around him. And most importantly, he does not know how close this situation is to affecting his relationship with Elektra. The episode closed with emotional uncertainty rather than dramatic resolution. No relationships officially ended, no explosive public arguments happened. Instead, the tension exists quietly, which in many ways makes it more dangerous, because emotional misunderstandings rarely explode immediately. They grow slowly, they evolve through assumptions, partial truths, and protective instincts that sometimes cause more damage than the threats they try to prevent going forward. The biggest risks are not obvious betrayal or obvious lies. The real risk is emotional misinterpretation. Ivy believes she is protecting Elektra. Dylan believes she is helping Will heal. Elektra believes trust is still strong, and Will believes vulnerability might finally lead to emotional freedom. But when four people believe for different emotional realities, collision becomes inevitable. The next chapter of this story will likely test not just romantic loyalty, but emotional maturity. It will test whether characters can communicate honestly before protective instincts turn into destructive accusations. If Will learns about Ivy's confrontation, he may feel betrayed by someone who believed she was helping. If Elektra hears a distorted version of events, she may question trust she once believed was unbreakable. If Dylan continues supporting Will, she risks being labeled as something she never intended to be, and Ivy herself faces a difficult truth. Protection without full understanding can sometimes become interference. This storyline is no longer about love triangles or jealousy alone. It is about emotional boundaries, trauma recovery, and the complicated reality that comfort can sometimes look like intimacy to outside observers. The ocean waves outside the beach house continue moving, calm on the surface, powerful underneath. In many ways, that perfectly reflects the emotional state of everyone involved in this story right now. Calm conversations, hidden fears, quiet guilt, silent protection, and emotional truths that are slowly rising toward the surface. And when those truths finally come out, nothing will remain emotionally untouched. This is no longer just a relationship story. This is a story about emotional survival, and the hardest emotional battles are always the ones nobody else can see. The night did not end with peace, while the beach house returned to silence. The emotional consequences of that evening were only beginning to unfold. The invisible tension between loyalty, guilt, protection, and misunderstanding was now moving, quietly beneath the surface, waiting for the moment it would finally break into the open. The next morning arrived with a heavy emotional atmosphere. Will woke up earlier than usual. Sleep had not given him rest. Instead, it had forced him to relive conversations, memories, and fears he had tried to bury for years. The confession he made to Dylan still echoed in his mind. For a brief moment, he had felt lighter, but now, uncertainty was creeping back in. He walked outside, staring at the ocean. The calm waves felt almost mocking, because inside him, nothing felt calm anymore. At the same time, across the house, Dylan was also awake. She had barely slept. Ivy's confrontation replayed in her head again and again, not because she felt guilty, but because she understood how easily emotional support can be misread. She knew she had done nothing wrong, but she also knew perception can be stronger than truth in situations like this. Meanwhile, Ivy had already left the house early. She needed space. But, more than space, she needed confirmation that she was right. In her mind, protecting Elektra was more important than worrying about how her actions might affect others. She convinced herself she had stepped in before something worse could happen by mid-morning. Ivy made a decision that would shift the emotional balance of this entire situation. She contacted Elektra. The call started casually, normal tone, friendly voice. But underneath, Ivy was carefully choosing words. She did not lie, but she also did not tell the full emotional context of what she saw. She described Will being vulnerable. She described Dylan being very close. She described emotional intensity, but she framed it through concern, not accusation. Elektra listened quietly at first. She defended Will and Dylan. She said they were friends. She said Will had been under stress. She said Dylan had always been supportive to everyone. But as the conversation continued, something changed inside Elektra. Not distrust, not anger, just discomfort. A small emotional seed of doubt, and emotional doubt grows fast when mixed with distance and stress. After the call ended, Elektra sat in silence. She did not cry, she did not panic, but she felt something new. Uncertainty, and uncertainty can be more dangerous than jealousy, because it slowly changes how people interpret future behavior. Back at the beach house, Will and Dylan crossed paths. In the kitchen, the interaction was polite, but different from the night before. Both felt it. Neither mentioned it. Emotional walls were already beginning to rebuild. Will thanked her for listening the night before. Dylan told him he deserved support. The conversation was simple, but both knew something had shifted, because sometimes tension exists even when nobody says anything. Later that afternoon, Will received a message from Electra, asking if they could talk later. The message looked normal, but he felt nervous anyway. Emotional intuition told him something was off. Across town, Ivy met with someone privately. She was not celebrating what she did, but she was convincing herself she had prevented a bigger, emotional disaster. She believed history shows emotional lines blur before physical ones do, and she refused to watch Electra get hurt. But what Ivy still did not understand was that emotional protection built on incomplete understanding can sometimes create the very damage it tries to prevent. That evening, Will and Electra finally spoke on video call. The conversation started warm, familiar, safe, but slowly. Electra asked if everything was Electra asked if everything was okay. Will said yes. Electra asked if he had been feeling overwhelmed lately. Will said a little. Electra asked if he had been leaning on Dylan for support. Will paused. That pause lasted only 2 seconds, but emotionally, it felt much longer. Will answered honestly. Yes, he said. Dylan listened when he needed to talk. He said it was nothing romantic, just emotional support. Electra nodded. She said she understood. She said support is important. She said she trusts him, but her eyes showed something different. Not suspicion, not anger, just emotional distance forming quietly. After the call ended, both of them felt unsettled. Will felt like he had done nothing wrong, but still felt like he was losing. Emotional ground, Electra felt like she still trusted him, but no longer felt completely emotionally secure. And that is how emotional fractures begin. Quietly, slowly, without dramatic explosions. Meanwhile, Dylan made her own decision. She decided to create emotional distance from Will, not because she felt guilty, but because she refused to be the reason tension grows between him and Electra. It was a selfless decision. But it also meant Will would lose one of the only safe emotional outlets he had found recently. Over the next few days, communication patterns changed. Will talked less. Electra asked more careful questions. Dylan became more distant. And Ivy watched, believing she had done the right thing. But emotional reality is rarely that simple, because none of them were villains. None of them were trying to hurt anyone, and yet, emotional damage was still forming as the week moved forward. Pressure from work, relationships, and emotional history started merging into one complex emotional storm. The biggest question now was not who was right or wrong. The biggest question was whether honesty would arrive before permanent emotional damage did. Because once emotional trust cracks deeply enough, even truth can arrive too late to repair it. The story is no longer about a single night at a beach house. It is now about emotional consequences, spreading across multiple lives shaped by perception, fear, protection, and unspoken emotional pain. And right now, every single person involved believes they are protecting someone, but sometimes when everyone is trying to protect everyone else, nobody ends up protected. The next phase of this story will decide everything, not through dramatic betrayals, not through shocking secrets, but through emotional truth. And emotional truth is always the hardest thing to face, because it requires people to admit fear, admit vulnerability, admit when protection turns into control, and admit when silence becomes emotional distance. Right now, the emotional storm is still forming, but very soon, it will either destroy trust completely or force everyone involved to finally face the truth they have been avoiding. And when that moment comes, nothing will be simple anymore. This is not just relationship tension anymore, this is emotional survival at its most fragile point.